first exercise, we're involving the sole and outside of both feet. So you're pushing the ball between the gaps 45 degrees using the outside of one foot, then you place that same foot on top of the ball, stopping it with the sole, then you exchange feet and push it with the outside of the opposite foot. This is a great exercise for working on your deceptiveness. Being able to stop the ball abruptly and change direction with it is going to help you unbalance defenders so you can escape on the opposite side. For all of these exercises, I'd recommend going to the end of the cones and back and repeating them 5 times. For the second exercise, we're using the inside of our feet only. So this is a great exercise for developing your lacroquetas, which is shifting the ball between the inside of our feet to get around the defender's feet. So what we're doing here is we're pushing the ball from one side of the body to the other, stopping the ball, and then we're performing the same movement in the opposite direction, but on the next one, we're pushing the ball forwards. So we're cross and stop, then across and forwards. So as you can see here, I'm pushing the ball from left to right on the way up, and once I get to the top of the cones, I'm going back in the opposite direction, this time pushing the ball from right to left. And then it's my right foot that pushes the ball forward until I get back to the start. Once again, 5 repetitions, there and back. For exercise 3, we're using the sole and outside of each foot individually. So we roll the ball between the gap, and then we push the ball through the next gap with the outside of that same foot. Once we get to the top of the cones, we can then repeat in the opposite direction, switching feet each time. So if you go from the beginning to the end with your right foot, go from the end to the beginning with your left. Just like the previous exercises, go for 5 repetitions there and back. Exercise 4 is similar to exercise 3, but this time we're exchanging feet and using the inside of the foot. So we're rolling the ball between the gap, then our next touch we're exchanging feet and pushing it through the next gap with the inside of the opposite foot. So as you can see on the way up here, I'm rolling it with my right foot, pushing it through the gap with my left, and then when I go back to the start, I'm rolling it with my left foot and pushing it with the inside of my foot between the gaps. For the 5th exercise, we're using the sole and inside of both feet this time to get through the cones. So we perform a little lacroqueta movement on the outside of the cones, and then we roll the ball through. So it's from one foot to the other, roll it through the cones, and then when we get to the next gap, it's another lacroqueta and we roll it through with the opposite foot. Once again with this exercise, go for 5 repetitions there and back. For the 6th exercise, we're working on a reverse elastico movement. So we're pushing the ball with the inside of one foot, exchanging to the outside of that same foot to change direction of the ball, and then we're going to put a foot on top of the ball with that same foot to stop it so we can go in the opposite direction. The key with this one is to minimize the time between that inside and outside touch so you can really make it deceptive, changing direction of the ball at the very last second, and also dropping your knee, dropping your shoulder to make the movement even more deceptive. For this one, once again, go for 5 repetitions there and back. For exercise 7, we're shifting the ball from the inside of one foot to the other, and then we're taking a third touch with the outside of the same foot we took the second touch with. So it's a quick lacroqueta, and then we're taking a third touch on that same foot to push the ball through the gap with the outside of that foot. So it's a shift from one foot to the other, outside of the foot, shift again, and then outside of the foot through the cones until we get all the way up to the end of the cones and all the way back to the beginning. Then we're going to repeat this one 5 times. In exercise 8, we're working on our step overs. So we're throwing our foot around the front of the ball, stepping around it, making sure we've got a slight bend in the knee to lower our center of gravity so we can protect the ball and be more agile with our movements. And then as we throw our foot around the ball, we're going to push off the ground with that same foot we stepped over with, so we can push the ball with the outside of the opposite foot through the gaps of the cones. So as you can see here, step over around, and it's the outside of the opposite foot, making sure we're keeping the ball close to our body, stopping it with the sole, and then repeating in the opposite direction. For exercise 9, we push it forward with the inside of our foot, roll it across the front of the cone using the sole of that same foot, then we drag it back with the sole of the opposite foot, push it to the inside with that same foot once again, and then we repeat until we've gotten around all of the cones in front of us. Once we get to the opposite side of the cones, we're going to go in the opposite direction. So if you started by pushing the ball down the left side of the cone on the way up, you're going to push it down the right side of the cones on the way back. Really working on your close control using the sole and inside of both feet.